The blizzard clawed at the hospital windows, like a living thing swirling white against the blackness of rural Michigan night. Dr. Sarah Anderson sipped her third lukewarm coffee, its bitterness dull, compared to the ache in her chest. Behind her, the Pinewood General ER hummed with soft monitors and the occasional intercom crackle, the quiet dread of winter emergencies still to come. Then the doors exploded inward in a flurry of snow and urgency. A massive German shepherd lunged into the ER, body-soaked eyes wild, and something wrapped in stained blankets held delicately in its jaws. "Get that animal out of here," barked Robert, the security guard, already reaching for his taser. But the dog ignored him, moving with strange precision. Its paws left red-tinged prints on the linoleum as it strode toward Sarah, stopping only when it reached her feet. Gently, it lowered its burden and stepped back. The blanket moved. Time slowed. Sarah knelt, hands shaking, and peeled it back. Beneath the bloodstains and damp cloth was a newborn, blue-lipped, barely breathing, wearing a tiny silver bracelet shaped like a heart. The exact one Sarah's grandmother had given Emily. Her veins turned to ice. 6 days ago, Emily had vanished, gone without a trace after a tense visit and a cryptic warning: "If anything happens to me, check my top drawer." But when Sarah searched the house, there had been no letter, only silence and rumors. Emily's boyfriend Michael claiming she'd just needed space, while the snow piled higher and hope fell thinner. Now a baby, a silver heirloom, and a dog who shouldn't have known where to go but did. Get me warming blankets. And the infant crash cart. Now, Sarah ordered. Jessica, her closest friend and night nurse, was already moving. Robert took a step forward, eyes on the dog. "Should I call animal control?" "You touch that dog," Sarah snapped, "and I'll sedate you." Even she was startled by the fire in her voice. The shepherd growled, low hackles, raised protectively. But there was no madness in his eyes, only a strange, soul-deep focus. Something in Sarah stirred some instinct from grief and hope, and the impossible. This dog hadn't just found the baby. He'd saved her. Sarah's hands moved automatically, checking the infant's airway, rubbing tiny limbs, whispering life into fragile lungs. The baby was cold, dangerously cold, but there was a pulse, faint, fluttering like a moth beneath her fingertips. The German shepherd hovered just feet away, unmoving except for the flick of an ear. He was soaked, scarred, with ribs showing through matted fur. Yet the way he watched her, unblinking, steady, made her chest ache. He wasn't here by accident. Jessica returned with the warming kit, her face pale with concern. "Sarah," she said softly, "the bracelet." Sarah paused, glancing again at the infant's wrist. That delicate silver chain, she hadn't seen it in years. There had only been two, one for Emily, one for Sarah. Gifts from their grandmother when they turned 16. This might be Emily's baby, she whispered. Jessica's breath caught. But Emily wasn't. She never said. Sarah's mind spun, rewinding back to their last coffee together. Emily had been nervous, twisting a napkin, glancing at the door. She'd shown Sarah a bruise on her wrist. "Michael isn't who you think he is," she'd said. And then a call, a glance, panic. "I have to go. I'll call tonight." The call never came. Only a neighbor's voice at 10:42 p.m. worried. A front door swinging open in the wind. Broken furniture. Emily's phone shattered on the floor. No Emily, but now this baby, this dog, and the locket. The emergency room's doors burst open again, and Dr. Reynolds from NICU strode in, his face unreadable until his eyes found the infant. Newborn. Female. "Severe hypothermia?" he asked, already moving to assist. "Found at the front doors," Sarah said. "Delivered by him." She gestured to the shepherd. Reynolds blinked. "And why is there a stray dog in my ER?" "He's not a stray." Sarah replied, her voice low and certain. "He's with me." Reynolds didn't argue, not after one look at her face. As the baby was stabilized, color slowly returning to her cheeks, the shepherd lay down just inside the door, his eyes never leaving the room. Not once. Something about his presence felt like a vow, a silent promise whispered through the storm. I brought her back. I'm not done yet. The storm outside was unrelenting, but within the ER, a quieter storm brewed beneath Sarah's skin. As Dr. Reynolds ran tests, Sarah stared at the sleeping infant, her niece, she was almost certain, and the dog who'd brought her in from death's door. His scars were old, his left paw twisted unnaturally, his ribs sharp. But his presence was grounding, protective, almost military. Jessica crouched nearby with a bowl of water. He's been through something awful. The way he positions himself always between the baby and the door. Sarah nodded slowly. Her late husband, Thomas, had worked with military service dogs. She remembered the way he'd spoken about them, not like pets, but like partners. Intelligent, loyal, deeply trained. This dog had that same awareness in his eyes. I'm calling him Max, Sarah said quietly. And he's staying. Jessica smiled faintly. Max. It fits. As dawn broke over Pinewood, the hospital administrator, Walter Peterson, arrived, red-nosed, puffed with protocol. Dr. Anderson, he began already eyeing Max with bureaucratic discomfort. We can't have a stray dog in the pediatric ward. He saved that baby, Sarah interrupted, standing between him and Max. And I believe she might be my niece, Peterson faltered. But your sister, she's missing, Sarah said firmly. Not dead. And now a baby shows up, a baby with our family bracelet. Hospital rules dictated calling Child Protective Services. But the blizzard had other plans. Roads were still impassable. Even the sheriff couldn't reach them until the plows came through. Sarah seized the opportunity. We'll run a DNA test, she said, more to herself than anyone else. Blood was drawn. Samples sent via satellite to the lab. Sarah sat beside the infant, eyes heavy with grief and hope. Max hadn't moved, his body curled protectively near the door, watching everyone, assessing, calculating. They were survivors, both of them. Thin, scarred, still here. When the results arrived just past noon, Jessica brought them in silence. Sarah took the tablet, read once, then again. A 99.7% match. She crumpled hand to her mouth, breath catching in her throat. It's her, Jessica whispered. It's Emily's baby. Sarah named the baby Lily. Lily Anderson, she whispered as she stroked the infant's fingers through the incubator port. At the sound, Max raised his head and tilted an ear as though he approved. There was no time to savor the quiet. Jessica approached, eyes tight. Michael Dawson's here. Sarah's stomach dropped. She found him at the nurse's station, tall, clean-cut, charming as always. His voice, smooth as silk, as he made small talk with a nurse. But Sarah knew better. She remembered the bruises on Emily's wrist. The way Emily had said, "He isn't who you think he is." Max's reaction was immediate. A low growl rumbled through his chest, ears, pinned, body stiff. Sarah gripped his collar just in time. Michael turned. Sarah. He greeted, eyes flicking to the dog. Heard about the baby. Town's talking. They say it might be Emily's. Why would you think that? Sarah asked, her voice level. Michael shrugged, too casual. Someone mentioned a family bracelet. Small town. Word gets around. She was found by him, Sarah said, nodding to Max. He brought her in the middle of the storm. Smart dog, Michael said, but his eyes were cold. He took a subtle step back. Sheriff Henderson arrived then, boots still dusted with snow. Mr. Dawson, he said, we'd like you to come down to the station once the road's clear. We've got new information about Emily's disappearance. Michael blinked, hesitated, then smiled. Of course. Anything I can do to help. But Sarah saw his jaw tighten. Later, in a quiet corner of the hallway, Henderson confirmed what she already feared. His alibi's shaky, and we found bruises in the past-sealed domestic violence charges back in Illinois. Sarah handed over the scarf Max had led her to in the woods earlier, Emily's scarf, stained with blood. "There's more," she said. "Max didn't just find the baby. He's been protecting her. I think he knows where Emily is." Henderson raised a skeptical eyebrow. "You think the dog knows?" Sarah didn't answer. She knelt beside Max, pulling out the scarf. "Max," she whispered, "where's Emily? Can you find her?" The shepherd's ears perked. He whined, stood and turned toward the exit, and Sarah understood. He'd led them to Lily. Now he was ready to lead them the rest of the way. Snow still fell, but softer now, a brief lull in the storm. Sarah followed Max through the hospital's side entrance, bundled in a borrowed coat, heart racing. The German shepherd moved swiftly across the parking lot, then into the woods, his movements urgent, unwavering. Snow swallowed her steps as she struggled to keep pace, the cold slicing through her scrubs. But she didn't hesitate. Not when Max looked back with that same clear purpose she had seen the night he brought Lily in. 20 yards into the trees, he stopped beside a half-buried log and began to dig. Sarah dropped to her knees, brushing away snow with numb hands, until pink fabric peeked through Emily's scarf. The one Sarah had gifted her last Christmas. Stained with blood. "Oh God," she whispered. "Where is she, Max?" Before Max could respond, her phone rang. "Jessica, Michael's here, asking about Emily." Sarah froze. "Don't let him near Lily," she ordered, already stumbling to her feet. She and Max raced back through the snow hearts pounding. Back at the hospital, Michael was leaning against the nurse's desk, like he owned the place. His smile faltered when he saw Sarah and Max, still bristling. Michael stepped forward. "If the baby's mine, I have a right to see her." "She's in isolation," Sarah said coldly. "Until we find Emily, no one but family and medical staff are allowed near her." "I am family," he snapped, taking a step closer. Max lunged forward, placing himself between them, teeth bared in silent warning. Michael recoiled, face pale for the first time. Sheriff Henderson arrived just in time. "Mr. Dawson," he said sharply, "I suggest you leave before I arrest you for disturbing a medical facility." Michael backed away, retreating behind a mask of calm. But Sarah saw the truth in his eyes. This wasn't concern. It was fear. Later, Sarah turned back to Max. "You didn't just find her, did you? You've known all along." She held the scarf out again. "Can you take us to Emily?" Max whined, ears twitching, then turned toward the door once more, tail high. Yes, he could, and they had to hurry. The storm had calmed for now. Sheriff Henderson gathered a small team, 2 deputies, local volunteers, and Sarah, who refused to stay behind. Bundled in maintenance-issue insulated gear, she clutched her radio as Max paced, anxious to begin. "We've got maybe 3 hours," Henderson warned. "Next front moves in by nightfall." Max led them through deepening snow into the forest, following a path only he could perceive. A mile in, he stopped abruptly, ears alert, then veered sharply left through a dense pine thicket. "He's on something," Henderson muttered, eyes narrowing. Dogs don't break trail like that without cause. They pushed through the branches into a clearing. There, slouched under a heavy, snow-laden roof, stood a forgotten relic, the old Pearson cabin. Dark, silent, abandoned for 20 years. Max climbed the sagging porch, scratching at the door with increasing urgency. "Police," Henderson called, gun drawn. "Anyone inside?" No answer. The door creaked open on rusted hinges. The smell hit them like a wall blood-rot old wood. Sarah gagged. "Stay back," Henderson ordered, but Max darted inside. Sarah followed, flashlight trembling in her hand. Inside one room, a rusted bed frame, a broken table, a wood stove gone cold, and blood dried flaked, darkened into the floor. Max whined beside a pile of rags in the corner. Sarah knelt. The rags were blankets, soaked through, empty, except for a journal. Emily's journal. Sarah's fingers trembled as she flipped through its water-damaged pages. Each entry a fragment of fear. Michael is dangerous. I'm pregnant. It's not his. He went crazy. Said he'd kill me and the baby. Henderson read over her shoulder, face hardening. She gave birth here, he said grimly, eyeing the blood. But there's no body. Maybe he moved her, Sarah whispered. After he took the baby, Sheriff Deputy Wilson called from outside. You need to see this. They rushed out. Wilson knelt beside a set of partially preserved tracks. Beneath the cabin's overhang, 2 sets. One smaller one, larger, the deeper imprint suggesting someone carrying weight. They go that way. Wilson pointed into the woods, made after the last snow, not older than a week. Max was already moving, nose to the ground, following the scent trail again. Sarah's heart pounded. We need to follow, she said. But Henderson hesitated, eyeing the sky. It'll be dark soon. If she's out there injured, then we can't wait, Sarah cried. She's my sister. She's bleeding. She's alone. Max turned, eyes pleading. Sarah nodded. We follow the dog. The snow thickened again, the sky darkening with the next wave of storm. They pressed forward, following Max's urgent pace, through tangled brush and over frozen streams. Then another cabin, smaller, even more decrepit. Max circled the perimeter, barking tail stiff with urgency. Henderson signaled his team, then crept to the door, weapon drawn. Police, he shouted. No response. Inside, cold air, old smoke and silence. But Max was ahead of them again, whining at a corner behind a tipped table. More blood, more rags. No Emily. Sarah spotted something half buried, a tattered baby blanket, a small smeared footprint. Emily had been here. Then a howl. Outside, Wilson waved them over fresh tracks. One large set, one smaller. They veered away from the cabin. But before they could follow, Henderson's radio crackled. Sheriff, we've got a situation at the hospital, came the voice through static. Michael Dawson showed up again. Aggressive, threatening staff. Claimed he has rights to the baby. Sarah's stomach clenched. Lily. Get Dr. Anderson back to the hospital, Henderson barked. We'll keep following the trail. No, Sarah protested. Emily's out here, and Lily's in there, Henderson countered. You're her guardian now, and we need to prove if Dawson's the father. That journal says he's not. Max whined softly at Sarah's side. I need to stay, she whispered, torn. Max pressed his nose to her hand, then turned back toward the trail. He understood. You stay with them, Sarah told him. Find Emily. Don't stop. Max paused, then took off through the woods with the search team behind him. Back at the hospital, snow clung to Sarah's coat as she pushed through the doors. Jessica met her with wide eyes. He came right up to the NICU, said the baby was his, threatened legal action. Sarah rushed to Lily's room. She was safe for now. Dr. Reynolds had moved her into a secure ward, double-locked with ID clearance. He says he wants a paternity test, Jessica muttered, voice bitter. Good, Sarah said. Because he's not the father, and we're going to prove it. She stood by Lily's incubator, brushing her fingers against her niece's warm hand. Don't worry, she whispered. No one's taking you from me. But her eyes kept drifting to the window, to the storm, to Max, to Emily. Snow battered the hospital windows. Inside, the air was thick with tension. Sheriff Henderson arrived, limping, his leg bandaged from a fall at another cabin miles beyond the last. Max led us farther, he told Sarah grimly. Then he vanished in the storm. We couldn't keep going. He's still out there. Sarah felt the ground shift under her. Not Max, not after everything. And Emily, signs she was moved again. No body, No warmth, no food. Henderson paused. But that dog he didn't want to leave. Stood guard till we dragged him back. Then he bolted. Sarah sat down the weight too much. Her sister, her niece. The dog who had saved them both. Jessica touched her arm. Come rest. Just for 2 hours. Sarah wanted to resist, but her body betrayed her. She agreed, collapsing into a cot in the NICU observation room. Lily slept peacefully just beyond the glass. The only sign of the nightmare outside was the red stormlight blinking faintly through the snow. Sarah's last thoughts before sleep, Max out there still searching. Emily's voice in the journal. If anything happens, the baby comes first. She woke 5 hours later. Too long. Jessica was waiting, eyes red-rimmed. They found her, she whispered. The words hit Sarah like a slap. Coffee slipped from her fingers, shattering on the floor. No, she gasped. Jessica grabbed her shoulders. Alive, Sarah. It's bad, but she's alive. Paramedics are bringing her in now. Moments later, the ER doors burst open. Emily lay on a gurney, unconscious, ghostly pale blood soaking the lower half of her blanket. IV lines, oxygen mask, blue-tinged lips. Severe hypothermia, one paramedic called out. Postpartum hemorrhage, possible sepsis, multiple contusions. Sarah gripped her sister's frozen hand. Emily, she whispered, I'm here. Dr. Chambers, the ER chief, took over. We need blood. Surgery immediately. She's O negative, he added grimly. We're low on supply. Same as me, Sarah said instantly. Take whatever you need. And the baby Chambers asked. She's O negative too, Jessica confirmed. So it tracks. She's Emily's. Sarah's gaze dropped to her sister's battered face. She fought for that baby, she whispered. Now we fight for her. As Emily was wheeled into surgery, Sarah turned and saw Max nowhere. Gone again. Out there. Still searching. Still protecting. The operating room doors shut behind Emily, and Sarah stood frozen, staring at the space her sister had occupied. She'd seen enough ER trauma to know Emily's chances were razor thin. Jessica approached breathless. Michael just turned himself in. What Sarah turned sharply. He walked into the sheriff's office, Jessica said, claiming innocence. Wants a paternity test to prove Lily's his. Sarah's chest tightened with fury. He left her to die. Took the baby. That's not innocence. We'll run the test, Jessica said. If the journal's right, it'll destroy any claim he has. Sarah nodded, then returned to Lily. The baby's color had improved. She was drinking tiny sips of formula, cheeks rosier. You're so strong, Sarah whispered, brushing her hand over the infant's hair. Just like your mom. Dr. Reynolds entered quiet and composed. They've brought Dawson in for the DNA sample. Sarah stood. I want to be there. She walked toward the small exam room like she was stepping into court. Not just to witness the test, but to face him. Michael sat at the table, hands clasped, expression carefully neutral. But Sarah saw the cracks, a twitch in his jaw, a flicker of unease when he met her eyes. She didn't speak, just watched as the swab was taken. Dr. Reynolds sealed the sample. Results will come back fast. Few hours. Michael stood. I just want what's right for Lily. Sarah didn't blink. You lost that right when you took her from her mother and left her in the snow. He didn't respond, just walked out escorted by deputies. Back in the NICU, Sarah checked Lily's charts again. Jessica joined her, expression grim. Update from surgery, she whispered. Not good. Bleeding won't stop. They're considering drastic measures. Hysterectomy may be worse. Sarah's knees buckled. I need to see her. Inside the OR prep room, Emily looked impossibly small. Monitors beeped in frantic rhythm. Her skin was pale, her lips barely pink. Sarah took her sister's hand. Emily, it's me. Lily's safe. She's waiting for you. Just hold on a little longer. Emily didn't stir, but Sarah imagined she felt the faintest pressure in her fingers. I found your journal, she whispered. Michael can't hurt you anymore. But please, please don't leave me too. The surgical team moved swiftly around Emily, but Sarah lingered at the threshold, unable to step away. The sight of her sister, pale, broken, barely tethered to life, was too much to bear. Finally, a nurse touched her arm. "Dr. Anderson, we have to begin." Sarah stepped back, eyes glassy, chest hollow. Jessica met her outside the OR, breathless. "Lily's blood type confirms Emily's, and there's more. Michael's test is processing now. We'll know soon." Sarah's voice was hollow. "She's too small to donate blood. We're running out of options." "We're not giving up," Jessica said firmly. Then came the second blow. Henderson wheeled in on a stretcher, pale and grimacing. "Rotten porchboard at the last cabin," he grunted. "Search had to stop. Storm's too rough now." Sarah's voice cracked. "Where's Max?" The searcher beside him exchanged a look. He ran off, took off into the storm. Wouldn't let anyone stop him. We tried to follow, but— Sarah staggered back, grief blooming in her chest. "No. Not Max, too." Henderson gripped her arm. "That dog wouldn't leave her side. He stood guard outside that cabin until help arrived, then vanished. He's still looking." Sarah covered her face. Too much. Her sister dying. Her niece still fragile. The only one who had known the truth lost to the storm. Dr. Chambers appeared, his face ashen. "Dr. Anderson, Emily's condition is worsening. Massive hemorrhage. Infections spreading. We need more blood than we have." "I'm O negative," Sarah said instantly. "It won't be enough," Chambers replied. "Storm delayed our supply trucks." Sarah searched for options through the fog in her mind. "Check Lily's records. Maybe her paternal side can donate." Jessica shook her head. "No record of the father. But we confirmed Emily's side. Lily's O negative. Your dad must have been too." "I'll donate again," Sarah said. A pause. Then Chambers added carefully, "One more thing. If we're to save Emily, she'll likely never carry children again." Sarah's answer was immediate. Save her life. That's what matters. The hallway dimmed with the weight of the moment. Life hung by a thread. A nurse approached, eyes wide. "DNA results are in." Jessica stepped beside Sarah. "Want to face him?" Sarah turned, spine straightening. "Yes. I want to see the moment he loses everything." Michael Dawson sat alone in the hospital conference room, perfectly composed. Hands folded, jaw relaxed. But Sarah saw the shift in his eyes the moment she entered. He didn't look at her. Not really. Dr. Reynolds placed the tablet on the table between them. "The test is back," he said simply. "You are not the biological father." Silence. Then, like a mask slipping, Michael's expression collapsed. For the first time, he looked small, diminished, dangerous, not in strength, but in desperation. "She cheated," he muttered. "I gave her everything." "No," Sarah said quietly. "You tried to control her. You left her bleeding in the snow." He didn't respond, didn't deny it. A deputy stepped forward, hands ready. "You'll be formally charged," Sarah added, "and you won't come near Lily again." His voice cracked. "She was mine." "No," Sarah said. "She was Emily's." Back in the NICU, Lily stirred in her sleep, unaware of the storm her birth had unleashed. Sarah returned to her side just as Jessica rushed in. She made it through surgery. She gasped, tears in her eyes. Emily's stable. Weak, but stable. Sarah exhaled for the first time in hours. Later, she sat beside her sister in recovery. Emily looked fragile, bandaged, pale, but alive. Sarah took her hand gently. "I kept her safe," she whispered. "Just like you asked." Emily stirred. A flicker of movement, and then her fingers closed weakly around Sarah's. Tears spilled down Sarah's cheeks. The next day, the sky cleared. The first full sunrise in days bathed Pinewood in golden light. A call came, mid-morning. Animal control. A stray had been found at the edge of town, cold, exhausted, half-frozen, refusing to leave the roadside where the ambulance had driven the day before. Sarah ran to meet them. It was Max. His tail thumped weakly as she dropped to her knees, arms thrown around his scarred body. He licked her cheek once, then collapsed into her lap. "You found her," she whispered. "You didn't stop." He didn't need words. His eyes said everything. Later that week, Lily was moved to a private room. Emily began to speak again in whispers. Sarah filed for guardianship. Max was cleared for adoption. Papers signed, collar engraved. The storm had passed. The wounds would heal. And together, woman, sister, child, dog, they began to rebuild. Not from the beginning, but from what was saved.